Hi, this is an overview of using Subversion and Git together for Blender development. I'll be showing this on the Windows operating system, but this can be used on any of the platforms we support. So, let's first look at what we need, and for that let's start with the Git. I use the MSys Git version, the portable version, because it's easy to just unzip and start using. And from that, my main control is the bash prompt. So let's start that. Okay, this Git we will use in a moment to do nice branch and merging locally while developing features, bug fixes and testing patches. Further, you will be needing a Subversion client, either Tortoise SVN or command line, whichever you prefer. For this tutorial I will be using Tortoise SVN, but it should be easy to translate any of these commands to your command line version or the graphical user interface version you use. So I have already checked out, but I'll quickly show how I did it. So SVN checkout, and for that we get https://svn.blender.org/svn-root/bf-blender/trunk/blender and check out to the module Blender. When you have done that, it takes a few minutes, you should have this directory. I already created a user config.py file. We will get to that later. Since I'm on Windows, I also need our precompiled dependencies, and I want to work on 64-bit, so I checked out the lib/win64 module from under our trunk. And then it's important to remember that you get essentially the same module path locally. So under dev we have now lib/win64, and this is how it looks like. So let's now do first a quick update to see if anything has happened. So what the idea of this tutorial is to show you how you can use Git locally to still be able to do commits, so to keep track of your development work without having access to our Subversion repository. And it gives you a way to handle implementing different features within the same Subversion repository, essentially, in a way that is pretty nice. So we now have our SVN checkout, and to use this with Git, actually the only thing we do is we just initialize a Git repository inside this existing SVN checkout. So you see here SVN administration folder and the checkout. So what I now do is just git init, and there we have our Git repository. And before I actually add all the files from the SVN repository as master, what I do is I add the SVN subfolders to ignore the compiled Python files and at least user config py, so that these won't be put into the repository, because we're not that interested in these. You can have the user config py in the Git repository if you want to, but then it would differ from what we have in our SVN trunk. So now we have this set up. Because we are initializing our repository, we just add everything that there now is there, because we have a clean checkout. We add everything. It takes a little while. It's quite a large repository after all. And when we have done that, we commit this status to the Git repository, so we have the first Git repository commit as seed for our further work. So now that we have added all these files, we can commit them. So let's see, git commit message seed or git there. We have our first commit made to our local Git repository. So we can quickly check with, okay, this is, so we can see here our first commit. We have now initialized our Git repository. So the idea is that we use Git to work locally and use SVN as the master for our Git repository. So whenever you want to work on a feature, make sure you have SVN updated while being in the master branch of Git, added all these changes and committed those, so you have a good baseline to work from. And then you can just check out a new local branch and do your work with this local branch. So you could start working right away. But, because I compile now on 64-bit, I have to make some small adjustments. So jack, sound file and QuickTime are not supported on the 64-bit platform just yet. I don't think we will get jack neither QuickTime. But let's make sure we have these, and then we can do our first compile. So because we're compiling on Windows 64, I need to make sure that I have the correct Python version in my path. I have already done that with set path is this essentially, which gives sorry. So you can see here Python 2.6 and ANSYS both added. So now we are ready to do also our first compile. Well, for me it's a recompile, but this is also how you just do your first compile. Actually this will take a while, so I pause for a bit and continue when the compile is ready. Okay, so while trying to compile, I see we have a small compile error in our code, and I already have an idea where it is or what the reason is. But let's take this as an opportunity to also quickly show how one could work in fixing issues with Blender source code. So error on line. Okay, this is probably just an include problem. Let's first quickly check what here the history is. So the change was some cleaning up and inclusion of Win stuff. So I just need to make sure that in Windows, in our Windows header, the correct headers are being included as well. So anything under BLE sits under our blend library. So I think I nailed the problem and fixed it. So we are now recompiling. While that is going on, and assuming that there won't be any more problems, let's see how this can be used as Git in combination with SVN. So I made changes to this file, and what I now can do is use the Blender, the Git GUI tool to check on the changes I did. Oh, I see that maybe I made a bit too many changes. But as part of working on a new feature, it's always good to make frequent commits, so you can keep also track of how your work is progressing. So let's now first make some commit due to so you can see I first clicked from here on the icon, so I've staged the changes, wrote the commit message, and then I commit. And it is good to keep in mind that committing while using Git, you do the commits locally. So you don't have to worry about making mistakes on our public SVN server. So let's now check with GitK. You can see here I now have made a new commit, and I'm in the cool feature branch. Cool feature now is of course a bit wrong name, since we are doing a bug fix. But nonetheless, you can still see how this can be used. So let's see, did our compile finish? And yes, it finished perfectly fine. Before we continue, let's see if this one change I made was a bit too much. So we compile again, and while the compile is ongoing, let's see if we hit some code that depended on it. That's going nicely through. So I like to use Git GUI because it gives such a nice visual way of checking your code. And there are some nice features like staging only one line for commit. So if you have made many changes in one file but you want to commit only specific parts of it, you can choose either hunks or just like I did, lines. We want all of this, so let's just take all of it. Let's see. And yes, we are also done with our compile, and let's check how that works then. So here we have our Blender SVN checkout together with the local Git repository, and as you can see, there are changes, and our ready to use Blender is in the install directory here. So before we can actually run this, let's just make sure we have these runtime DLLs and manifests installed. And then it's just a matter of starting. And as you can see, modified version of this revision. It works actually pretty nice. Like so. Our window manager still works, and the feature that was being worked on that kind of broke this is toggling of this. Let's see if that also still works. And yes, we have nice toggling system console on Windows. Pretty nice. Okay, now that we have verified that our fix works, I think that it is important to keep working in making sure you have always a correct state for all of your code. So just one more check. We don't have any changes in our Git repository. So just let's go to our master here. Oh, wrong one. The Blender. Let's just do a SVN update, just to make sure that no one has been committing anything before we go commit. and we can see there have been changes, so it was a good thing to check. Not very nice speed from our SVN, so this takes a little. Okay, one commit has been done. Let's make sure that we have that also in our cool feature or our patch or bug fix branch. So what I then always do after doing SVN check SVN update, you can see here that there have been changes, and because we know that all these changes come straight from SVN and this is our master, we just git add a and then commit with some message so you know what revision you have there. Like so, and then you can rebase cool feature with master. So this way, if there are people working on the same files you are working on, you can ensure that you can maintain your own set of patches in a nice separate way from the SVN work. Now maybe a little bit redundant would be compiling once more just to ensure everything absolutely works. For this I rather use sconce than CMake, or because in my experience currently CMake still sometimes skips some of the things I would want it to compile. So I use sconce to ensure I have good compile. It's looking very nice. Blender being linked right now. Python has been extracted. Okay, that was it. So what we now do is to keep our Git repository also nice in shape, we go back to our master branch and merge our cool feature into that. So now our Git master, which is also the SVN, are in their respective sync. So let's see, check for modifications. We see we have the one file modified, just like our Git GUI showed. When you're developing for Blender as a developer who has no write access to our SVN, then at this point you'd of course create on the SVN side a patch from the files you have been working on and save it somewhere. Let's not win stuff fix. And this file you would normally then submit to our patch tracker to get it included. So our patch tracker is here. Tracker patches. So you would submit it here, and then notify the developers either on IRC or on the mailing list of this new patch, so that someone can then review the patch and maybe ask for improvements, or if there are unclear things, or just apply commit. So that was a little bit too fast, but let's now just commit this thing. So we select commit from the SVN context menu, fix compile problems for MSVC. So I think this should settle this problem. Password and username. There. Apparently one more commit has been done, but not conflicting. Let's see. Let's see what happened there. Someone and as you can see here, two people on their own way trying to fix problems. So let's do also quickly this one, but not using Git. Anyway, this is just a quick overview of SVN and Git. I think it is a very good way for people to use Git, especially when they work on many different features. This way you won't have to do many checkouts of SVN to work on those separate features. That way you can nice and easy keep patches in a clean state. So thanks for following this tutorial, and I hope you have now a little bit more courage in joining Blender development.